Okay, it looks like nobody is joining me for this meeting. I've got 0 participants, so that's what you get for making this an optional assignment. And it's the very first extra credit for this semester. I'm talking to nobody right now, but hopefully some students will watch this video later after I post it to YouTube and put the link on the Lone Star. This is recorded for my Lone Star students, but if I ever teach this class at another institution, I might use this video too. Usually if I teach this class online, it'll have a similar format, right? But anyway, like I said, I'm talking to nobody right now, but hopefully some people will find this video useful. If you're just watching this on YouTube and you're not taking my class, this video probably will not be useful. All I'm going to do in this video is talk about logistics, the class requirements. I'm going to go over the syllabus. I'm going to look at the what's called the D2L website. At other institutions, it might be Blackboard, it might be Eagle Online. Actually, that's just HCC. Nobody else will use Eagle. I'll never work for HCC again. But Eagle is a, it's actually through, I forget it, whatever. If it's a different website, obviously this is going to be different for you. So this is mainly for Lone Star students. So you should stop watching right now, unless you're thinking about taking my class. You live in Houston, or maybe you want to take it. I offer, this is an online class, this particular version. But if you want to take my Intro to World Religions, maybe I guess you would watch it, even if you're in Milwaukee or wherever you might be. So anyway, I still don't have any participants. No one's showing up to my Zoom meeting. None of my students are here. I guess they know how to read a syllabus. I hope they read the syllabus, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the syllabus. We're going to look at the D2L, or, if you were at another institution, it'd be something else, Blackboard or something, the website for the class, and that's it. And this will be very quick, probably a very short video, one of the shortest I'll do in the series for this class. The class, by the way, if you didn't read the title of the video, is Intro to World Religions. It's Philosophy 1304. That's the course number by the Texas, the standardized sort of catalog numbering for humanities, for philosophy. So right now I'm going to go ahead and just share screen. I'm going to, where is it at? I thought I had it open. I guess I don't. Okay, I guess I'll just go to the PowerPoint, close that up. We are going to open the syllabus for the class, okay? Now, if you're taking this semester will be fall of 2020. I'm recording this on August 30th of 2020, right in the middle of the COVID pandemic, so everything's pretty much from home right now. Let me get our syllabus open. The scheduling might be a little bit different. There's one little tweak that I did because of the COVID that I'll talk about when we get through the syllabus. But besides that, this is a pretty standard version of the class. This is pretty much how I teach it almost every time I teach it. It's been a long time since I've taught this class, at least 2, maybe even 3 years since I've taught it. So I'm a bit rusty. Hopefully, as the semester progresses, my memory will be jogged. I'll get better at this stuff, and I'll provide better content. But let's just, without further ado, open up the syllabus. Here it is. 1304 again is the course number. Philosophy 1304, Intro to World Religions. Wait for it to open here. Get a sip of water. Okay, let me expand that a bit. Okay, so this course description is just I cut and paste from the Lone Star catalog. I didn't write it, but it's a fine description of the class. We are covering Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and quite a few other traditions, okay? Same thing with the course objectives. These are just standard course objectives for the class. You can kind of ignore them for now. Maybe as the semester progresses, you can look back and make sure I'm doing my job and I'm providing all of these skills to you and you're keeping up with them. The textbook for the class, okay, it's not my favorite textbook, but it's a decent book. Let me stop sharing the screen so you can get a better size shot of it. This is the 9th edition. The first time I taught this class, I was using the 7th edition, and I didn't choose the book. They didn't let me choose it. Now, I guess I've been teaching longer. I'm seniority. I get to choose. And I went ahead and picked it because I spent so much time basing my curriculum on this text. that, I mean, I didn't want to redo a whole other course, right? I added a lot of other material outside of this, but this is the majority of the readings. It's not the best book of its kind. It's not the worst of its kind. There's a lot of pros and cons. It doesn't have a lot of primary sources, just, really long quotes, pretty generous quotes, but no primary readings. And so those, I do provide quite a few of primary sources, actual scripture from these different traditions that we will be covering this semester, right, throughout the course for many of the traditions, right? But again, this is the textbook. It's in its 9th edition. This is the instructor's edition. It's not much different, so the cover will look very similar. I think it's a different photo, but a similar photo, a young lady in red. So it looks very similar to this, but it's called Living Religions by Mary Pat Fisher and Robin Reinhardt. If you get an earlier edition, like I was saying earlier, the first time I taught this class, I was using the 7th edition, I believe, so I know that will work. Some of the terminology has changed, some of the vocabulary has changed, but I will address that along the way as we continue through the course. So again, if you get the 7th edition, you'll be good. You'll probably save a lot of money. I think this is like way overpriced if you buy the new one. It's like $100 or something. And it's just a paperback, right? It's just another part of this big scam that we call the book industry, right? The publishing industry for education. It's part of one of the big problems. I mean, I don't want to get a soapbox here, but one of the major problems, I think, in my opinion, with education today is text. It's ridiculous, right? And curriculum. But anyway, so enough of my little rant on the book. Let's get back to the syllabus and try to get through this. Still no participants. No one has shown up. And I'm giving them like a free 5 points on their final average, like half a letter grade just for showing up and participating. So maybe once the semester progresses and people are more desperate for a boost in their score, I'll see more people showing up to these extra credit sessions. But alas, we must continue alone for now. Let's go ahead and go back to the syllabus. Let me share my screen. Here we go. All right, so enough about the textbook. Here's how the course will be broken down as far as your grade is concerned. So there's a research essay, compare and contrast essay, and an argumentative essay. And there are due dates for a first essay, a second essay, and a third essay. It doesn't really matter what order you do these in, but you have to do one of each kind, okay? So you have to do one research paper, one compare and contrast, where you take one religion and you compare a similar practice. Like for instance, you might talk about karma in Hinduism versus karma in Jainism or Buddhism or something like that, right? Because they both have an understanding of that term karma, and for them it has a certain significance. So you can do a paper on that. That would be a good topic for compare and contrast. And then you have to have one argumentative essay where you might take, like for instance, if you're doing it on Christianity, you could pick maybe a passage from the Bible, or maybe like the gospel, and I wouldn't do too broad. Like, I mean, some people want to do like I'm sure. Well, even the compare and contrast, they do it too broad. Like they're like, I want to compare Protestant Christianity with Catholicism, and that's to me too broad. You want to focus in on something more specific and learn more about it. So it's okay to compare, like for instance, to stick with that topic, Catholicism versus Protestantism. Maybe you could talk about the practice of the sacraments in Catholicism versus Protestantism, right? There's a lot of similarities, but even though they're the same, like let's say you look at communion and in Catholicism versus like if you're a Baptist or some other sort of Protestant, where you might be eating a wafer and you might be drinking wine, but that means something completely different. So you could focus on that particular practice, but I don't want something super broad, right? And also like the controversial like paper, the argumentative essay. I don't want these papers where you're like, I think Islam is better than Christianity or vice versa because of this. What you could do is say, look, I think that Islam deals with this particular problem, let's say, like this theological issue, than Christianity, or vice versa. Christianity does a better job, and here's why. Or even better, if you don't want to get that, because that's kind of controversial, you're like pitting two traditions against each other. An even better argumentative essay would be something like, here's this one interpretation that certain Christians have of the Gospel of John, or this particular parable from the Gospel of Matthew, right? Like Jesus has this parable of the like, let's just say the parable of the prodigal son, right? If you're not familiar with it, don't worry. We'll learn about it. We'll talk about it when we get to Christianity. But you could do a paper, like an argumentative essay, where you're like, here's, two or three different, like, positions, like interpretations that different religious, like theologians, Christians have given throughout the time, scholarly sources, hopefully, and here's the one that I think is the most plausible. Here's the one that I think makes the most sense, given what's said in the text, given the historical context, whatever kind of argument you want to make. But the point is, you're taking a position with regards to a certain reading of a text, or a certain approach to a certain tradition, or something like that, and arguing that one is better or more, well-founded than another. That's pretty controversial, right? I understand it's a world religions class. I hope you realize you're getting into that. All I ask is that, and I'll probably repeat myself on this, let's try to keep it respectful. I don't have any participants right now. Nobody's in the weight room. So hopefully when we do get into some discussions and some people do interact, even if you want to disagree or whatever, try to be respectful. I know it's really hard to do sometimes, like, as someone who is raised in the culture you're raised in, you get used to certain things and certain practices, right? And when you are presented with things that are completely different from that, a lot of times you might react in a way that's very disrespectful, but maybe not meaning to be that way. You might hear about some belief systems in this class, and you're like, I can't believe, that's ridiculous. They believe that. It's so stupid. When you feel like having that reaction, try to, don't say that at least, right? At least withhold acting that way, because somebody in the class might be of that belief and you're going to offend them. That's not respectful, right? Try to think about it this way too. There might be some things that you believe, especially, if you have your own religious beliefs, think about how somebody else who hasn't been raised the way you have, who doesn't have the background that you have, how they might think about those beliefs, right? And how would you feel if they were like, you believe that? That's ridiculous. That's stupid. So, think about it that way, right? I mean, some of these beliefs, I think they sound ridiculous. I think they sound, but I keep it to myself, right? Or I try to, right? I'm pretty bad sometimes myself. I'm human. I have a little fun. I try to make this class fun and engaging and have fun along the way. I don't mean any disrespect. If I do, it's sort of like out of love, right? The way you sort of have, knock at your friends or whatever, but it's sort of a loving sort of knock. I have a deep respect, even though I'm not a religious person myself, I have a deep respect for almost all these traditions. Well, yeah, pretty much all these traditions in some way or another. There's something I think we can learn from all of them that's useful, right? So just keep that in mind, right? So I got quite sidetracked there on the syllabus, right when I got to the grades, which is really what you're probably, if you're a student of mine, you probably care more about, like, how do I get a good grade in this class? That's what I want to know. But again, it's those three papers, one research paper. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And same thing goes with that I said about the others. Don't make it too broad, whatever topic you choose. Don't say, I'm going to just do a research paper on Shintoism. Well, that's too broad. Like, that's a whole religious faith. Like, talk about, like, the practice of sumi, like purification in Shinto. Or there's like a big controversy in Japan right now. I think it's ongoing. It's been going on for a while, but like the government involvement in the preservation of the Shinto temples and things like that. Something real specific. You're going to do some research. You're going to learn about a specific facet of whatever religion that you're going to pick. That's a really interesting papers. One that comes to mind that I really loved was this young lady did a research paper. One of the first times I taught this class, she did it on Lilith, right, which is according to several Judaic traditions and some Christian traditions. Lilith was Adam's first wife, right, according to the Talmud, before she was exiled, and then he, removed his rib and made Eve, right? But that's non-canonical, right? But there's a lot of people who believed it, and she did some research on it and talked about a bit of how medieval Christianity was influenced by the idea of Lilith, how modern feminism is, uses Lilith as an icon. We'll talk actually a little bit about Lilith, but not much in this class, but that's the sort of point. The research paper, it's like you just, something that we might have covered that we didn't cover very in depth. You want to get more in depth. That's what the research paper is about. That's a pretty straightforward one. The compare and the contrast, again, it's more like, here's a practice in two religions that's very similar, or here's a teaching or a dogma or whatever, a philosophy, and let's talk about the similarities and the differences, right? And the argumentative, I think I've already said enough about that, right? You've also got quizzes online. If you're taking this class online, usually if I teach it face-to-face, I do in-class exams. But online, we just have a bunch of quizzes, right? There's an introductory quiz, and then there's like a quiz for every different religion. You can skip, this is the first time I'm doing it this way, you can skip either the Shinto or the Sikhism quiz, right? You don't have to do both, right? If you do both, you're not going to get any extra points, right? So pick which one you'd like to study. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm not sure which of those two I want to teach, right? Shintoism, there's a lot of interest in it, I find, because I guess people, there's a lot of the younger generation who are very into Japanese culture here in America. So I get a lot of students who have heard of Shinto, probably through like Japanimation and, anime and things like this, manga and all those sort of things. They've heard of Shinto, so they want to know more about it. But the problem with that is that Shintoism as a religious tradition is kind of on the wane, right? I have had a lot of students from Japan. I've known a lot of people from Japan. I've met a lot of people from Japan, and very few of them are very religious. At least they're not like Shinto, right? It's sort of like an old, sort of respected tradition, but very esoteric. Only a few people really practice it the way it was traditionally practiced. And it's been that way, increasingly since the end of World War II. We'll talk about the reasons for that, if you want to know more about Shinto. And then Sikhism, I decided, I've never covered it before. This will be the first time I've covered it. It's actually on the rise, and you hear about it in the media, unfortunately for bad reasons. There was a big shooting at a Sikh temple. Heck, it's been years ago now. I can't even remember, maybe 7 or 8 years now. It's been a while. But it actually is a much more, I guess it's spreading much wider and faster, and Shinto is waning, right? So, and Sikhism, so to me, is more relevant and important to know about if you're a contemporary modern student. So again, I'm on the fence of whether to, get rid of Shinto and keep Sikhism, or do what I'm doing this semester and kind of letting it be optional. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see who covers what. And if there's a lot of interest in one over the other, I might keep Shinto and get rid of Sikhism, or vice versa, right? So we'll see how it pans out. Okay. So back to the grades. Okay. Each of these papers that I'm speaking of, the research paper, the compare and the contrast, and the argumentative essay, each of those are the same. They're 20% of your final grade. All of your quizzes, they add up to 40% of your final grade. And so I'll drop the lowest one, but I just take an average, right? I add them all up and divide by the number of quizzes, right? But I'll drop the lowest quiz grade. So if you bomb one, then no big deal. Also, this semester, for this class, fall 2020, Lone Star College, this class is actually, there's a lot of opportunity for extra credit. There usually isn't this much opportunity for extra credit. But since I haven't taught this class in so long, and since my lectures were so old and like really bad, like old recordings, some of them had a lot of glitches in them, I've decided to re-record all my lectures for Intro to World Religions, okay? Since that's the case, there's a lot more opportunity to take advantage of this extra credit. But besides that, there's always extra credit because I do a monthly discussion group. We'll talk about it when we get to it here on the syllabus, and it's also posted up on the D2L website for my Lone Star College students, okay? So participation, if you show up to these meetings, you know, no one's shown up so far yet, but you get 5 points each time. And you can get up to 15 points. Normally, during a normal semester, I would only let you have 10 points. That would be the cap. But since this is a special semester, first time I've taught this online for Lone Star, first time I've taught it in a while, I'm giving you a little bit extra opportunity to have some extra credit because I want to encourage participation in these online lectures, right? I want to have good content with some good interaction between me and the students and some questions, right? So it's really unfortunate that nobody could make it. I'm wondering if it's because this is Sunday at noon. I've got another meeting tonight at 7 where we're going to go over actual content, not just the syllabus and logistics, but actual content. And hopefully there'll be more people at that one. We'll see how that goes. That'll be later today. Okay, so participation, mainly just show, you know, just do all your work, right? Do the readings, do your work, do the quizzes. And that's your participation grade, right? You also have these extra credit opportunities, which will help fudge your participation grade. The quizzes, a little bit about them. The format, what'll happen, you have 1 hour, they're 60 minutes long, they're 1 hour long, and when you so you go to D2L and you open the quiz, and once you open it, the timer starts, you'll have 60 minutes, and there'll be a list of questions. You'll have 3 questions to choose from, and you just pick one. Don't answer all 3. You just pick one, whichever one you think you can answer the best and the most accurately and with the most information. You can expand on the most, right? And just write the best, most complete answer that you can, right? People always ask me, how long does it have to be? What's the word limit? I don't care about word limit, but I would say at least 4, 5, 6 sentences minimum, and that's if you're very good. But I would say that the more information, the merrier. Don't just add a bunch of detail that's not necessary. Don't do that. Don't misunderstand me. But address the questions, right? Make sure you answer everything that's being asked in whatever prompt that you choose, right? Because each question will have, it's really not just a question, it's like several questions. You know, you'll have like 2 or 3 parts, right? So make sure you address everything in that question fully. And, you know, it's just kind of like a short essay, you know, like one good paragraph or 2 really short paragraphs is sort of how you should think about it, okay? And so that's the way the quizzes will look, right? They're all pretty much the same. You open it up, you got 60 minutes to write a short answer, short essay to just one of your favorite questions, right? You pick the one you like the best out of the 3 options, okay? So I think I've said enough already about these essays. If there's enough interest, if people are asking on the discussion boards, I'll see and look what happens. If there's enough interest, I might do a session on how to write a paper or good guidelines or whatever. But I think I've said enough on this video, honestly, right? And if you want to set up, I do have office hours this semester, virtual office hours on Tuesday, Thursday. So you can always check in on me there and talk to me one-on-one. I can give you more advice on your paper, maybe even look at a rough draft if you have one. So that's, I think I've said enough about the papers. And this is kind of confusing. I don't really know how to write it on the syllabus to make it super clear. But I've already said, you know, I think it's clear enough. You have to write one of each type, right? So you've got a research paper, a compare and a contrast, and then debate, a controversy, or, you know, sometimes like I most often will call it argumentative essay or thesis defense or something like that. So you have to write one of each. But you also have to make sure you write one paper for each unit, right? So the way the class breaks down is you got unit 1, which is the first 3 religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, and then optional Sikhism. You don't have to cover Sikhism, but if you want to, that would also be a part of unit 1. You could skip Sikhism if you don't want to cover it. If you prefer to cover Shinto, then you get to scratch Sikhism out there, right? So, but you've got to pick one of those 3 or 4 and write any of these types, right? A research paper, compare and contrast, or debate and controversy. You got to do one of those on unit 1, right? After you pick that, then you've got 2 left, right? You got to compare it. Let's say you do a research paper on Hinduism. Let's just sort of, just for example. let's say you decide, I'm going to do a research paper. I thought that the goddess Kali, the Deva, she was interesting. I want to learn more about Kali, right? So I'm going to do a research paper on Kali and see how Kali, if you don't know who Kali is, don't worry, we'll talk about her later. I want to see how, how different forms of Hinduism see her, how different parts of the India and the Indian subcontinent, like how traditionally she fits into the pantheon, right? That would be a research paper, okay? So now you've done your research paper. You still have to do one comparison and contrast and one argumentative essay, right? So let's say Unit 2, you decide to do a paper where you compare and you contrast Taoism with Confucianism, right? Which is like, there's not much to compare. They're pretty different, right? But you're going to talk about, let's say, the politics of Confucianism with the politics of Taoism. Taoism is sort of like a hands-off, sort of like, don't be this stern leader. It's like everything has to be by these set rules. Whereas Confucianism is like the opposite of that. Everything's like orderly, right? So you could do a comparison contrast between Taoism and Confucianism. Or you could do a comparison contrast between Confucianism and Hinduism. Maybe you could talk about the Hindu caste system, right? Versus like the Confucian system of relations between family and the societal relations in Confucianism and how there's similarities, right? So again, that's just for example, right? So let's, again, just to start over real quick, let's say Unit 1, you do a research paper on Hinduism. Unit 2, you do a comparison contrast that involves Confucianism, so you've knocked out your Unit 2 tradition, and you compare it to Hinduism, which is fine. You can cross units if you want to. And then let's say now you've got to do your argumentative essay. And honestly, I recommend you do it in this order. You don't have to do it this way. You can do it however you like. But I recommend you save the argumentative one for last. It's probably the hardest one. So you want to sort of, be really thoughtful with it and kind of be thinking about through the semester. So let's say the argumentative one, you've got to pick at least one of these three: Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Let's say, hey, I'm going to talk about the different interpretations of, let's say, prophecies from Isaiah, right? Like, that's a really big controversy in Christianity, right? The prophet Isaiah is pretty important to a lot of Christians. They use a lot of quotes from Isaiah. There's other prophets too, but that's just the one that's popped in my mind, where like Christians will say, hey, if you look at Isaiah, he's talking about our Lord and Savior. He's talking about Jesus Christ in this passage. Well, a lot of Jewish people don't like that. They're like, that's not true. That's not what Isaiah's talking about, right? So there's a Jewish interpretation of Isaiah. There's a Christian one, and maybe you could debate that. You say, well, let's look at the original scripture. Let's look what the Hebrew Bible says. Let's see what the Torah says. Let's see what the books of wisdom say. And let's see what the prophets say and the context and all that. And let's see, are the Christians, are they really justified in this, right, in their interpretation? Or are the Jewish scholars more justified, right? And that might require you to do a little bit of outside research, but the main point is having a good argument. And so whatever side you take, you provide some good evidence for it, right? And show why the other approach isn't quite as strong, right? What the weakness is and why your approach is stronger. Okay, I feel like I've said a lot about the papers so far, so maybe we won't even need to say any more, right? But again, I was just explaining the way it breaks down. You got to do one of each, right? A research paper, compare and contrast, and debate and controversy, argumentative essay, and you got to make sure you cover at least one of each from each unit, right? One tradition. Let's say you do Hinduism for one paper, you do Shinto and Confucianism for your compare and contrast, just for instance, and then you do a debate of controversy in Christianity, right? That would be one example, one way you can do it. Extra credit opportunities I've talked about a bit about. So one of them is the one that's going on right now that nobody seems to be participating in. Nobody's here right now. It's right now talking to my cat is here listening, I guess. But again, I do have these monthly discussion groups that are independent of this for my own benefit, for my own curiosity and fun. I have my own philosophy reading discussion group. So if you're interested and you want other opportunities for extra credit, as if there weren't enough already for you guys this semester, my Lone Star students, These are once a month, right? They're every third Sunday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And so, in fact, geez, that reminds me, I'm probably going to have to reschedule some of the Zoom meetings that I have because I think they conflict. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Anyway, I'll fix that probably later today. I don't want to get sidetracked. But anyways, I'll click on these links when we're looking at the D2L website because they're there as well, so you can see what these the group looks like and the how you can RSVP and how you can sign up and all that good stuff, right? So here's the class schedule. I'm pushing the due date back for the intro quiz because we had a big scare with the Hurricane Laura. It never really hit us. At least it didn't hit me. I live downtown Houston, pretty close to downtown. We got a little bit of rain, but nothing real serious. But we shut everything down for a few days because we thought it was going to hit us, right? So because of that, Lone Star had me push everything back. Nothing could be due last week or this week. So the due date for the intro is not till, I forgot the date, but I think it's Thursday of next week. Probably the 4th, I think, is the day. It's by midnight. You got to have it turned in. But besides that, everything else is staying the same, right? So the Hinduism quiz will be due on the 7th, the Jainism 13th, and so on and so forth, right? So I'm not going to read the whole schedule. You guys that are taking my class, you can look at the syllabus. It's available online. All of this stuff here, again, it's just, oh, cool, I've got a participant. Looks like somebody showed up. But all this stuff is available online. Let's see. And much of it is just stuff that I had to use. All right. Yeah, this is all COVID stuff. So it looks like I got somebody here, Anna. She still hasn't shown up yet. It looks like she's still connecting. Anna, are you there? Can you hear me? Anna? It looks like she hung up because I'm the only one here. She's like scared. She's like, oh crap, nobody else showed up. Okay, so Anna heard me and she ran off. She's not getting extra credit for that. I hope she doesn't think she's going to get extra credit for that. So let me go ahead and go to Blackboard. This is not going to take long. We're almost done. Let me get back to this piece here. And I can sort of lower that. Okay. So for those of you who are taking my class at Lone Star College, let me log in. Okay, hold on a second. Sorry about that. So obviously you go to My Lone Star. Everybody should have done this already. If you're taking my class online, all this is redundant. Log in. Click on LSC Online. Brightspace D2L. And here, hold on, at the top is at least the top for me. I don't know if you're taking more than one class, it might not be the first one for you. It's the first one for me with Ferris wheel here. Intro to World Religions, 1501 is the section number. As far as I know, it's the only section available at the North Harris campus, right? It's only available online this semester. All classes, as far as I know, are online at Lone Star this semester. There might be a few labs, like science labs, that are taking place on campus, but for the most part, everything's online for the COVID-19 protocol. So here's the class. Let me see. Can can I have it in view as a student? Okay, let me do it that way so it looks more like you're going to see it. And let me close my little window here so you don't see me. I'm on the way. Okay, announcements, right? These will change. I might actually erase this announcement and keep the welcome one up here because it has some useful information, I think. Let's see. Content is what you want to click on. That's really how you get to the important stuff. So overview, right? This is what it's going to look like the very first time you log in. The first thing you're going to see is that first page announcements. When you click on content, you're first going to see the overview. If you scroll down, you'll see just sort of the breakdown of the units, which traditions go with which unit. That will kind of help you, I think, make your decisions when you're deciding on what you're going to write about for the first paper, for the second paper, for the third paper. Here's all the extra credit Zoom meetings. And yeah, it looks like I do have, now I'm looking at September 20th, the Taoism meeting, part 1 is conflicting with my, and part 2 is conflicting with my meetup group, right? So I'm gonna have to change this, right? So I don't know when I'm gonna do that. It's still ways off. It's a few weeks off, but no big deal. But these two meetings, the Taoism and Confucianism, I'm probably gonna push back. I might do them on Monday, like Monday evening or something like that, just back to back. I still haven't decided. I just realized it. And that's probably also true. No, they'll be done by October, so there'll be no conflict after that. I think the next meeting is not till late October, so that's all good. So that's the only thing I really need to worry about are these two, the one on September 20th. Good deal. All right, so again, these are all for extra credit. None of these are required, but if you show up, 5 points added to your final average, you can get up to 15 points. Bookmarks I've never used as a student. I guess you might be able to bookmark certain of these links and then unbookmark them. So if you're working on something, you want to return to it, that might be something useful that you do. I don't know. I've never done that. I've never used it myself. The course schedule, I guess it kind of tells you what's coming up. You got this quiz coming up pretty soon. You got the Hindu quiz, right? So that helps you keep up to date with the assignments. If you click on table of contents, that tab right there, you can see sort of everything all laid out from top to bottom in sort of shorthand form without everything expanded. But if you want to expand everything, like you want to click on Intro to World Religions, you see everything that's there. You've got a syllabus. I even give you a copy of the first chapter for those of you who are still having trouble getting a copy of the textbook. This is actually from an earlier edition. It's from the 9th edition. I think I actually said 9th edition earlier. I meant to say 10th edition. That's the version you're technically supposed to get. That's the most recent one. But I was able to get a free PDF of the first chapter online. So just, it's very similar. It'll get you through the first week of class. It'll get you through the first quiz. So that'll help you out for those of you who are still waiting for, financial aid, or maybe your book hasn't come in yet if you ordered it on Amazon or something. Now this PDF is all it is an outline of my first lecture. I'm going to be giving this lecture later tonight. It doesn't have as much information. It just sort of has some of the pictures, some of the basics. You might want to print it out, and when you're listening to the lectures, or if you're going to come and join the lectures this semester, fall 2020, you might bring your notes and take notes to sort of fill in the blanks. You may print these out, and you can write notes on the paper that you print out. This audio, I'm probably going to erase it, and I'm going to replace it with this video once I'm done uploading it. And at the bottom here, you have your intro quiz. So the quizzes will always be embedded in the proper place with the proper tradition. So for instance, the Hinduism quiz is under Hinduism, the Jainism quiz under Jainism, so on and so forth. There's a discussion board for every unit. These are optional, just like it says. You don't have to do it. It might boost your participation grade if you're right on the edge of let's say you're on the edge of a A or a B, and I notice, hey, this person's always on the discussion boards. They're always really helpful and answering questions to the other students and helping them out, I might bump your score up a point or two if I notice that about you, right? But it's not something you have to do. It's just, it's a good place for students to talk to each other, and maybe, if you want to get study groups together, I don't know if you want to do that during COVID, maybe you could do it online or something like that. That's basically the thing. Also, you've got your essay for each unit. So right now I'm on Unit 1. So this is religions of the Indian subcontinent, Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and the optional Sikhism. Once you're done with all these religions, once you're done covering them, then you're going to turn in your first essay, right? And again, it can be a research paper, it could be a comparison and contrast, it can be a argumentative essay, but it has to be on one of the first unit religions, right? One of Unit 1 religions. Okay. Now, below that, below the essay, right, which is due in October, there's some documentaries which I put up for your enjoyment, right? Again, these are optional, don't have to watch them, but if you're curious, I think they're really good documentaries. I have to warn you, they're really old. So, they're a little bit more slow paced, I think, for the modern audience. That, a lot of the modern audience, I think, especially Americans, have quite a short attention span when it comes to watching things. And so, I don't know, you might find them boring, but I think they're pretty interesting. I like them. Okay, it looks like Anna is back. So I'm going to let her in the meeting, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Anna, are you with us? Can you hear me? Oh, she's still connecting, right? So I'm going to pause here for a minute. Hello, Anna, are you there? You can write in the chat box if you don't want to talk. Can you hear me? I don't know. She's either not hearing me or she's being shy. But yeah. Okay, if you just don't want to talk, that's fine. I understand. Anna, I'm almost done, right? Nobody showed up. You're the only one that showed up so far today. And I'm about to end the meeting, right? I was just sort of recording it, and I went over the syllabus. I'm done with that, and I'm almost done with going over the DQL website. So I'm just going to finish that real quick, and if you have any questions, I'll let you talk. But let me just sort of finish where I was at real quick.
Okay.
So again, as I was saying before Anna showed up, these documentaries, some of them are a little old, some of them are a little bit slow paced, but I think they're interesting and they're just for your enjoyment. They're just kind of fun to watch. Besides that, I guess the story's the same on Unit 2. You got your second essay here at the bottom. In fact, I'll probably move it up above the documentaries. Documentaries will always be at the bottom. All the quizzes are with each respective tradition. And that's pretty much it, right? I think as far as D2L goes, everything I said is pretty much all you need to know. So sorry, I know you showed up earlier, Anna. I don't know, maybe you weren't able to hear me or you were having technical difficulties, but you were like here for a second, then you went away. I'm glad you came back, but like I said, all I did was I went over the syllabus and I talked about the Blackboard, or sorry, I keep saying Blackboard, D2L website. I recorded everything I said, so I'm gonna post this later on the website. But do you have any particular questions perhaps about the class or the textbook or anything at the moment? I mean, go
The
ahead.
textbook,
Mm-hmm.
is that like the ninth edition or the 10th edition? Because I know you have like different.
I kept correcting myself. You'll see it in the video. I kept saying the ninth edition, but then I like just about 10 minutes ago I was like, oh crap, I mean the 10th edition. It doesn't really matter if you've already got the ninth edition. That's fine. In fact, I when I first taught the class, the first time I ever taught it, I was using the seventh edition. So I know that one will work. It's slightly different. Some of the vocabulary is a little different, but I'll address that as we get to it. But technically, I think the bookstore, like the cover is different because I have the instructor edition, but it's the 10th. It's the 10th edition. But you'll save a lot of money, I would think, if you get like a used copy of the ninth or the eighth or the seventh or something like that.
Yeah, because I order mine on Amazon and to rent it, and it's the same cover, and it's the 10th edition. But I wasn't sure because like one part says 10, and then I know you had mentioned the ninth, so I was just wanting to clear that.
Right, right. Yeah, sorry for the confusion. I did post the first chapter. I was able to find a free like PDF file of the first
Mhm.
chapter, but it is from the ninth edition, but it's really not different or much different. So I put that on D2L just for people like you who are still waiting for their book to come in. Like that will
Yeah.
get you through the first quiz, right? Um, but hopefully you'll show up. I mean, I think the Hinduism quiz isn't due until like week after next. So certainly it'll be in by then. And we're also going to cover like if you want to show up to the Hindu meeting, we'll be doing that. I think it's Friday at noon, and then we'll do part two on the same day, like in the evening. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to sit in on, and we'll cover like pretty much everything that's going to be on the quiz.
Yeah, and then when you said part two, part one, part two, is that like, are you repeating what you said from the part one, or is that like a second part to it?
Yeah. Yeah. So
That
yeah. I
you're
mean, it's gonna take probably. I want to try. I don't know if I can do this, but I want to try to make every lecture about an hour, more or less.
yeah.
It says an hour and a half, but I just like that last 30 minutes is just like an in case, and maybe for like Q&A and discussion, and like the first part will be lecture. So I'm hoping to get these videos like within an hour. And yeah, I'm thinking like Hindu is going to take me at least 4 lectures to get through everything. It's a pretty broad tradition. So yeah, they're not going to be repeats. They're going to be new info. But like I think I mentioned this already on the website. They'll be available, right? Once I record them and I post them up on YouTube, I'll put them on the D2L website. So you don't have to show up to all of them, right? They're extra credit and they're just me recording videos. So next time I teach this class, I can just reuse them, basically.
Yeah, okay. That's understandable. Also one other thing I had in mind, because I did.
I'm losing your audio. You totally cut out. I can't hear you at all. I heard one thing you did and then click. It just the audio went away. Maybe you could type your question in the chat box. It says your microphone's open, but I'm not getting. There's no levels on it. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm going to stop recording this because I think I've said pretty much all the pertinent information. But I'm going to stick around for Anna, make sure she's got all her question answered. So, but thanks for joining me if you were here and watching this. And I hope you enjoy this class. And we'll see you in the next lecture, hopefully.